Your Grace should not have acted so, because it offends the Lord.
Hello, beautiful. Welcome back to my Chanel. So I have to address something. First of all, as you can probably see, this little mark on my hand here, shall we say. I'm a formulation scientist, and I'm currently trying to formulate a wearable, easy-to-use gradual tan. And sometimes mistakes happen when you are a chemist. So, all my products will be tested by me first. Let's just say that. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to another historical makeup scandal video, girls. Today, we're going to be taking a little trip to one of the most notorious female serial killers of all time. It is, in fact, Elizabeth Bathory. So, my goodness, where do I even start with this? This might be a two-part video. I'm not sure yet. I'll see how much I can get through today. Elizabeth Bathory. The very name conjures up some sort of like regal, monasterium, if that's even a word, woman of the ancient world who was very wealthy and very clever and very cunning. And you would be exactly correct. She was all of the above. Elizabeth Bathory has been like a sort of style icon / like witchy villain of the Gothic community for quite some time. And if you have any interest in like serial killing or anything like that, you may have heard of her before. So to begin this tale of
Absolute madness,
we must cast our little souls back to Hungary in the 1500s, 1560 to be precise, when a young child named Elizabeth was born to a very noble family. Countess Elizabeth Bathory de Esed was a Hungarian noblewoman from the noble family of Bathory, who owned land of the Kingdom of Hungary, which is now divided into Hungary, Slovakia, and Romania. So first of all, we have to really kind of understand how this family came to be so powerful and absolutely ludicrously wealthy for the time. Also, they actually have a little shield for their family, which I think is so cool. I cannot wait to create a little crest for my family. The family rose to significant influence in Central Europe during the late Middle Ages, holding high military, administrative, and ecclesiastical? That's not a word. Ecclesiastical positions in the Kingdom of Hungary. So the Bathory family belonged to a little clan of noble families for this time in this period. And the family descended from two brothers who emigrated to the area in 1036. 1036. 1,000 years ago. 1036. Can you even imagine being like a human in 1036? Like, what were your ancestors doing in 1036? I barely imagine that mine had emerged from a little swamp lake and just washing their hats against the riverbed. Like, what else could they have been doing in that day and age? Like, what was there to do apart from look at the sky? So in 1310, the name Bathory first arrives. There was this historical figure called Bator, and apparently he was the sole possession of Bricius. Now, I can't actually tell whether Bricius is in fact a human, a selection of land, or perhaps some sort of like noble cutlery. I can't quite tell from here, but apparently he came to an agreement with his nephew and his cousin to divide possession jointly between them. After this, all of the descendants of this man named themselves Bathory, which meant of Bathor. How exciting is all this history? Where does your last name come from? I am fascinated to know if you happen to know the history at all. Please share it in the comments below. So let's get to the legends, shall we? So this probably adds to Elizabeth Bathory's story in the way of like just everything becomes myth and legend, shrouded in mystery, and we just don't know what could be real and what could be lies. A legendary account placing the Bathory's origin in the year 900. So this legend takes the family's name back even further, and it relates to a god-fearing warrior called Vitus, with the namesake of the first generation of the Gutkeled clan, who set out to fight a dragon which lurked in the swamps next to the castle of Exed. And this dragon harassed the countryside, it harassed the country folk. It was like,
excuse me, have you heard of our Lord and Saviour, fire and brimstone?
And everybody was like, please, Vitus, kill the dragon. Ah. Vitus killed it with 3 thrusts of his lance, so stab, 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 and as a reward received the castle of Exed. The grateful people honoured him with the name Bathory, meaning good hero. And interestingly enough, in Hungarian, the word Bator means bravery. I could be butchering all the pronunciations of these words. Please forgive me if I am. So the Bathory coat of arms, which is the one I showed you earlier, is this shield with like 3 red, like sharp points on it, was styled in reference to this legend of the man doing 3 stabs to the dragon. How cool is that? And this was all in like 1300s. This was 1325. What is happening? I wish I had a coat of arms that went back that long, my darlings. I feel like I deserve one. So not only does this family have like wealth, money, and power in the area, they also have legend associated with their clan and also an incredible rich history. So let's fast forward a little bit and take it back to Elizabeth Bathory. So Elizabeth Bathory was born on the 7th of August 1560. Her mother was named Anna Bathory and her father was George VI Bathory. So I must actually say to you that Elizabeth Bathory is like, the story is quite horrific and quite intense, so just as a little cautionary tale before we begin to recount her crimes and her never-ending quest for eternal beauty. So obviously, being born to a very wealthy and influential family, she had the best access to education, to healthcare, and to language, so she was able to speak a plethora of languages by the age of 5. Now, as a child, she was actually plagued with health problems. Historians have speculated that the fact that her parents were first cousins may have contributed to her weak constitution. Let's not go there, sis. Let's not go there. Elizabeth Bathory was actually an epileptic and was prone to violent caesuriae. It has in fact been recorded that young Elizabeth was exposed to all sorts of horrific atrocities during her formative years. She had said to have begun laughing at the sight of a man whose crime was stealing being sewn into the body of a horse. Absolutely disgusting. She would also regularly witness severe beatings of servants. I'll say it again, I have absolutely no idea how anyone survived the Middle Ages, or even is here today. So Elizabeth was quite different to the other girls of her age. She was not offended by violent crimes that she saw. In fact, she seemed to be drawn to it. Put a peg in that, we'll be reaching that later. At the age of 10, she had become rather stunningly beautiful. It was then that she became engaged to a 15-year-old Hungarian count by the name of Ferenc Nadatsky. I always forget that in history we were literally forcing young girls to get married and young men to get married, and just everything was a mess in history. I consistently forget that that's actually a thing that happened. As was the custom of the time, she moved into her future husband's parents' palace, customary of the time, let me just move into the palace, and received education in running the estates that were under the control of her mother-in-law. A legend has it that Elizabeth had an affair with a peasant. Scandal, girls. Scandalabra. An affair with a peasant in 1580. Hideous. It is said that she gave the child away secretly. Get out. Meanwhile, Ferenc is supposed to have discovered the affair and had the peasant castrated and thrown to a pack of wild dogs. That little story is a little bit of speculation, but in 1574 she got married to Ferenc, and the party was absolutely insane. Over 4,000 people attended this party, and Ferenc gifted her an entire castle for her own use as a wedding gift. And the party raged on for 3 days. The castle that she was gifted is situated in Little Carpathians in modern-day Slovakia, and it was surrounded by a village and farmland. This is very important. We'll put another peg in that, and let's carry on. It would later become the scene of her many horrific crimes. The young couple united two ultra-powerful families of the region. So both Ferenc and Elizabeth had, like, notoriously powerful families for this day and age. For the first few years, Elizabeth was busy learning and overseeing the many estates that she had controlled. Her husband was off fighting against the Ottomans. It's so funny that they're called Ottomans, because I always picture an Ottoman at the end of the bed that you put duvets in. He proved to be a great warrior, earning the nickname of the Black Knight of Hungary.
Spooky girls.
His absolute brutality in the face of the enemy terrified his enemies and shocked his allies. Can you imagine being in a war and just seeing, like, your knight friend that you have, and he's just literally, like,
Desecrating everything.
decimating everything in sight, and you're like, good one. I'm a bit scared. So during the war years, Elizabeth's castle was actually threatened by the Turks. Elizabeth had to defend her husband's estates, and she did so exceptionally effectively. She was actually a very educated, controlled, well-mannered woman who really knew how to win a war, it seemed. So interestingly enough, a different side to her is that she actually took in destitute refuge peasants and was like,
Let me look after you. Let me help you.
So because of all these wars and all these battles going on, Elizabeth and her husband didn't actually spend much time together in the first few years of their marriage. So this allowed Elizabeth some time by herself, and you know what they say?
While the cat's away, the mice will play.
In 1601, a mysterious woman moved into the castle. Her name was Anna Darvolia, and she was seen as an evil witch of the area. She is in fact a mysterious woman who we don't know a huge amount about. So apparently Elizabeth's, like, personality and demeanour, even though she was a raving sadist at this point, severely enjoying torturing her servants by putting oiled up pieces of paper between their toes and setting them on on fire at only 14 years old. Apparently, she really transformed when this mysterious Anna moved into the picture. She became even more sadistic. And while it is said that Elizabeth's husband was the one that taught her how to torture, Anna was apparently the one that taught her how to kill. So we have to really understand the time in which this is. So when you have servants and slaves in the 1500s, they are not being paid. They are desperate to be under your wing because you can give them food, shelter, and housing, and they must do everything that you demand of them. So under the sinister tutelage of this Anna woman, Elizabeth was responsible for several deaths of her female servants. The thing is, obviously, around this time, no one knew. No one cared. If someone disappeared, none of the servants would be like,
we're gonna form a union and take down the queen.
No, that didn't happen. Everyone was like, I must just carry on making this bread. I don't care that my friend, I will never see her again. To go against Elizabeth's word was to commit treason, essentially. Peasants were completely disposable at this time and place in history. Any questions that were raised by family members were quickly squelched by the virtue of huge power that the Bathorys had. Elizabeth was, in all practical terms, absolutely untouchable for her crimes. She was able to kill and torture and kill and torture and kill and torture again until her heart was content. Of course, it never was. Interestingly enough, around the same time that Anna moved into the castle, Elizabeth's husband became severely unwell, and we don't actually know what happened to him. He just died. And at the time of her husband's death, Elizabeth was 44 years old. Back in this day and age, you still had things like rumours, especially things around villagers and being like,
Don't go to the castle, we'll never see you again.
So these rumours really did start to take hold. Even though their power was so influential in the local area, it didn't stop priests from warning people and talking. Local pastors became increasingly suspicious as Elizabeth more frequently asked them to come to the castle and perform funeral rites, especially for the servant girls who had, by all accounts, just mysteriously died. And most of the time she attributed it to cholera, which was a huge problem at the time. People would just get cholera and die. So it was very difficult for people to be like, you've killed them. You killed them, didn't you? Didn't you, Elizabeth?
You murdered those girls.
And she would just simply be like, no, they had cholera.
Cholera! I've got cholera!
It is recorded that one of the priests called her aside after attending one too many funerals and said to her, your grace should not have acted so because it offends the Lord, and we will be punished if we do not complain to you and criticize your grace. And in order to confirm that my words are true, we need only exhume the body, and you will find that the marks identify the way in which the death occurred. So she was going to get found out by an autopsy, but it sort of didn't matter because Elizabeth was so powerful. Elizabeth became absolutely outraged that someone had dared even suggest such treason. Elizabeth and her husband had 5 children that we actually know of, not including the mysterious peasant boy child that was potentially given away. We don't know anything about that, but 5 children indicates that they do in fact have descendants that would still be alive today. When her husband did in fact pass away, this marks another change in Elizabeth Bathory's demeanour, shall we say. She's still got the mysterious Anna witch woman living with her. Her husband has died under mysterious circumstances, and she becomes power crazed. And the servants noticed that she became even more sadistic. It appears that she had now transformed her penchant for sadism from a hobby into a full-time career, girls. Specifically in the torture of young servant girls. Now in which comes the historical beauty scandal. Simply put, Elizabeth had chambers of torture installed into her massive castle and estate. So there are in fact transcripts from the trial of Elizabeth Bathory that indicate we actually do know this. She did have torture chambers installed. The most pervasive belief is that she would use a scythe to drain the blood of virgins, and then she would bathe in it to preserve her youthful beauty. Imagine for a second, you are in 1600, your sister goes missing, and you hear rumours from the local villagers, and there is some sort of like Dracula witch potential women living in this castle around your village, and you hear that they are draining the blood of virgins. Is there any more of a historical scandal than that, my lovelies? Is there absolutely any more than that? And you know what, my loves? I'm going to leave it there for this part of the video, because let's go into her crimes a little bit more in part 2. What do you think about Elizabeth Bathory's story so far that we have covered? Do you think that there's any truth to it? Do you think that potentially there was just this crazed woman in the Middle Ages that was literally sacrificed virgins for eternal glory and beauty? Do you think that she really did this? Leave your answers in the comments box below because I'm fascinated to know what you think. And do you know of any other bizarre blood rituals that used to take place for the very essence of beauty? I mean, when we think of blood, what do we even think it is? It literally is life, isn't it? It gives life. We have vampiric stories where they want to suck the essence out of people. Maybe there is some truth in this ancient bloody ritual type situation. Oh, isn't it creepy? Isn't it creepy, but also deeply interesting? Today's Instagram shout out goes to Unusually Unique. Thank you so much for following me over on Instagram, you stunning woman on the go. If you want to be in with a chance of being featured in my next video's Instagram shout out, make sure you follow me over on Instagram. And a brand new hello and welcome to Shelly Nova. And once again, I want to say a massive thank you to all of my channel members and Patreons. You can see your name on the screen right here, my lovelies. If you wish to become a member of this channel, please look in the description box below for all the links that you will need to support us and make us thrive. Once again, a massive thank you and shout out to my top tier Patreons and channel members, Morrigan E. Wolf, Caitlin Wright, Erin Conkle, Stephutek, and Magustala Goose. See you in my next video, beautifuls. And don't go accepting any invitations from wealthy women who live with a witch.